The judge blocks Arizona's immigration law. Michigan governor race. The gubernatorial. Kalamazoo has an oil spill. There's a fake tea party out there, folks. France declares war on Al-Qaida, and the Chevy Volt is introduced. And the hippie has to retract a statement. All this and more on Third Rail Politics.
I gotta hear this. The French declare war on something.
Yeah, the French declare war on Al-Qaida. But I want to get this other part out of the way first. That actually, that's one of those lines that just makes you laugh like instantly, isn't it? But I have to retract a statement, and this is only the second time since I've been doing the radio shows that I've actually had to retract something that I said. But I don't want you guys to ever get the wrong information. It's more important for you guys to get the right information than it is for me to protect my pride. And, let's face it, I'm a dude here in a tie-dye T-shirt, so obviously I don't have any pride. So let's get it out of the way. Last week, I told you guys that Barack Obama was in danger of losing Louisiana, Mississippi, and I actually said Missouri, but I meant Alabama. And I looked at my electoral map, and I don't what the hell did I do? I think that I just thought that red was blue. I don't know what else to tell you. The truth of the matter is Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama all went to McCain and didn't go to Obama to begin with. So I don't think he really has a whole lot to worry about there. But I want to revise my prediction on that a little bit. And because I was looking at some of the numbers, and when I was talking to you guys before, I kind of glanced at it and I was trying to gather some information. I really didn't think I was going to go over that, and so I should have looked at it a little bit better. That's all there is to it. But I'll never do that again. But anyway, what I came to the conclusion is it's entirely possible that, and we're really early on this, really, 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 really early. So a lot of things in politics can change in months, much less in years. So that we don't really know how this is going. But I am seeing a mass exodus. Now, I'm a white male who voted for Barack Obama. And I can tell you that a lot of my friends who, quote unquote, wanted to give the black guy a chance are now rethinking it. And a lot of it has to do with the race and everything that we've talked about before. But the bottom line is that there's a mass exodus of white people that are leaving Barack Obama's camp. Now, it's always possible the Republicans could run some complete a-hole and this would change things. But given that, I was looking at the electoral map and realizing that some of the states that are the big number states, okay, the biggest number is California with 55, and then you have New York with 31, and then after that you have Texas with 34. Now, they don't have a chance, the Democrats, of ever getting Texas. That's just all there is to it. And unless, something happened that the Republicans, I don't know, like the Republicans started passing no hunting laws in Texas or banned having guns in Texas. That would probably be the only thing that I can think of offhand that would cause the Texans to stop voting overwhelmingly Republican. But given that fact, when you look at the numbers, and really in some of the bigger states, Obama won pretty handily. And the only ones that were really close were like Pennsylvania and Florida and Michigan and those states like that. If there is a mass exodus of the independents and the white males, it's entirely possible we could see another scenario where Obama will lose the popular vote but possibly still win the Electoral College, which would be, it would be an utter disaster. But the weird thing about the Electoral College, and one of these days I'll do a show where we just talk completely about the Electoral College, okay? One of the weird things about the Electoral College is that the side that loses by the Electoral College, especially when it's close, always wants to get rid of it. That's all you guys really need to know about the Electoral College, is that they always want to get rid of it if they lose. But anyway, I wanted to get that out of the way. That was bad information on my part. We won't do that again. All right, let's go down to some of this stuff. I want to do the quickie news. This is the part, and then the main meat and potatoes today. And by the way, I'm the hippie conservative, in case you guys don't know. Commander Hipcon, trying to lead you guys the way of truth, the Pythia of politics, if you please. And I'm trying to simplify things in layman terms so you guys understand a little bit better without getting too wordy, too deep, too intellectual. I'm hoping to keep it real, man. Keep it simple. All right, let's go through some of the stuff. The judge blocks the Arizona law. Well, no, let's start with something else, because this is something that I didn't really have on my list, but I want to get to this. The Afghan War, the war in Afghanistan. We talked about this before. This has been an utter and complete disaster. I've been saying that we need to get the hell out. This is Obama's Vietnam. That's what I'm going to refer to it from now on. A lot of you guys that are on the Democrat side are going to say, you know, hey, Hippie, what the hell are you saying, man? He didn't start the damn war. This was Bush's war. Well, okay, but here's what happens in politics, guys. And this happened to Nixon, too. It wasn't Nixon that started the war. It started with Kennedy. It ended up with LBJ, and it spread to Nixon. Here's what happens with these wars like Vietnam, is that somebody else starts it, it escalates, it gets to a certain point, a president gets elected like Nixon, and they decide that they're going to try to win it. And when they make that decision that they want to try to win it, and then they start increasing the troops, and they start increasing the money, and they take ownership in most people's minds. Obama ran specifically on the Iraq War was the losing war, that we shouldn't have even been there to begin with. It was a mistake. And you guys all remember this from the campaign. And the Afghanistan was the real war. This is where Al-Qaida actually was. This is where the Taliban was. So he made an effort. Now he's increased. He's fired McChrystal. He's got Petraeus in there. He's had his own surge. He's put more money. He's put more troops in it. He's now taken ownership of it. This is going to be Obama's Vietnam. Trust me, it is. Now, you don't just make statements like that. You back them up. By any measure, this is from the LA Times, and this is July 24th. Actually, this is a conglomeration of a bunch of different news articles that I got on the Afghan war. By any measure, Saturday, July 24th, was a very bad day in Afghanistan for U.S. forces, a convergence of two dreadful battlefield events. 2 U.S. soldiers were missing and feared captured or killed by the Taliban, military and Afghan officials have said. 5 other U.S. service members were killed by improvised explosive devices, IEDs. The 2 members of the U.S. Navy left their military compound in Kabul on Friday and never returned, NATO said in a statement. A Taliban spokesman claimed that the group had captured the pair. Military vehicles and helicopters were deployed in a search, and nearby radio station broadcasted messages offering $20,000 for the soldiers' safe return. All right. Last month, a record 60 Americans were killed in Afghanistan. Now, how many of you heard that? I mean, maybe some of you did, but I mean, really, stop and think about how bad it was with Bush. With every time we had anything happen, any records, every time we crossed 1,000, every time we crossed 2,000, whenever there was some significant number, or whenever there was a large number of deaths, especially a record, you heard on it on the LA Times, on the New York Times, on the MSN, on all your websites and everything else. Code Pink would come out, the anti-war protesters would come out, and everything. Now, the most recent fatalities, including those 5 sad deaths of our fine American soldiers, now brings a tally for this July to 57 as of now. And actually, there was another one yesterday. So we're now up to 58. So we're going to reach the 60, I presume, by the end of this month also. That's 2 record-setting months in a row. Who the hell has heard this? Here's another point. Okay, when you're talking about this and the way it's portrayed in the media, the first thing you notice is there's something called personification and humanification. And what that is that when you just tell somebody, okay, two black people died in a shootout in Detroit. Let's make it even better. Let's say 8-year-old dies waiting for a bus in Detroit, and that's all you say. 8-year-old dies in a bus in Detroit, waiting for a bus in Detroit. Then you start adding details. And the more details you add into it, the more involved you become. An 8-year-old girl holding her Snoopy lunch pail got shot standing in Detroit. You see how it starts to draw you in. Now we get a little more personal. Little Tawana Bay walked out to her bus stop with her little Snoopy lunch pail and her cute little pink dress that her grandmother bought her for Christmas. You see what it's doing? You see how you feel it a little bit more? That's how they make you sympathize. During the Afghan War and the Iraq War, when Bush was in charge, you constantly saw the faces of the servicemen that died. You saw interviews with civilians when they died. Where is this now, guys? Look around. I mean, you anti-war people on the left, and I'm fundamentally anti-war. I'm a hippie. The only time that I pretty much agree with Jerry Brewer. I would just assume we stayed the hell out of a lot of this stuff. We have to set a standard, decide what it is we stand for. If we stand against genocide, then fine. But we can't go willy-nilly just deciding what wars we want to get into based on whether or not we want oil, whether or not we want their natural resources, whether or not they pissed us off, whether or not we don't like the way the French dress. I don't care, whatever it is that we decide that we want to attack them for, we have to have some kind of a standard. My standard really is self-defense. I believe that we should lead by example. And that's the way that we should lead. And our founding fathers believe this too, by the way, that the only thing that we should do is we should be a great country. And that should be the motivation for other people to become democratic countries. That should be the motivation for other people to be successful and prosperous. Should be the motivation for other people to want to be capitalists. Tony Blair had one of the best lines that I ever heard. And he was coming under a lot of flack for always supporting America in England, in Britain or whatever, UK. And some of the people were asking him. One of the newscasters over there was asking Tony Blair and said, "Why is it you always support America so much? What is it about America you like so much?" And he says, "You know, I judge countries on who wants in and who wants out." And that's the truth of it. If a lot of people want out of the damn country, how great can the damn country be? If a lot of people want in, then there must be something going on. Now, for some of you people that question, the greatness of America, and I'm a huge American fan. If you question the greatness, and it's not like we can't always be better. We should always be striving to be better. But if you're one of the people that's kind of down on America and only wants to look for the bad, and remember, you'll whatever you look for, you'll find. If you want to look for the bad, you'll find it. Always remember that this is the country that if we opened our gates, we would be overrun. Overrun by people from all over the world that would come here as quickly as they could possibly run. Just Mexico alone, every single person from Mexico would run. It's funny that we stand there and let Felipe Calderon stand in the Rose Garden and badmouth America, when if we opened up that gate, which way would the people be running? They would be running toward America. And I'm sorry, I'm unashamed of how proud I am of my country. My country is one of the finest. America is one of the finest countries on the planet Earth. Do we make mistakes? Yes. Do we have a bad history? In some instances, yes. Some instances, no. Some of the things that we've done, particularly freeing Europe twice, I'm very proud of. There's some things like slavery or denying women suffrage that I'm not so proud of. But America is a country that learns. America is a country that turns around. America stops Jim Crow laws. America stops prejudice against women, blacks, Muslims, whatever. We work against it. We allow freedom of speech. We allow people to have, and it's the most important part. We allow people to do that. That's what makes this country great. Anyway, let's get back to it. A military analyst, Scott Taylor, had this to say. Okay, and this I really thought this was kind of an interesting part of a different article that I read. People forget in the first 3 months that it took to topple the Taliban, only 12 American casualties occurred. NATO is now losing an average of 12 soldiers every 3 days. Now we've got soldiers even being taken prisoner. 4 years soldiers that died in that single blast Saturday amid the latest push by the international force to target Taliban hotspots are included in those numbers. And also the other soldier that died in the separate bomb attack. Including the deaths on Saturday, NATO has now lost 75 soldiers in Afghanistan this month. 56, plus the one, of these deaths were American soldiers. With the bombing surge underway and the casualties rising, the number of Americans who say this war in Afghanistan is worth fighting has declined from 52% in December to 43%. And that's without the humanization. That's without the personification. That's without them telling the story of each and every soldier. Here in Michigan, they made a big deal every time that any soldier died until Barack Obama got elected. And then all of a sudden, they don't want us to, our governor, Jennifer Granholm, who I lovingly referred to as Buffy the Job Slayer, has now given up. All of a sudden, she doesn't care. This is utterly ridiculous. Right now, his approval rating for handling it, Barack Obama's, is down from 56% in April down to 45%.
Can I ask a question? Okay,
sure.
How many people, do you have the statistic of how many people we've lost both in Iraq and Afghanistan in the past, 9 years we've been there, 9, 10 years?
It crossed 4,000 2 months ago in Iraq. Afghanistan, I don't have the I don't have the number. I saw the number, John, but I can't tell you what it is. I'm sure it's well over 1,000.
My point is, everybody says, look at what these Republicans have done and how many people they kill, and they don't care about people. That's horrible. We allowed 8,000 for both wars, both fronts.
Sure.
For over 9 years. There's been battles where the Democrats were overseeing the majority of it. That was the outcome of one damn battle.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to be fair, Iraq has gone way, way down. I mean, is the numbers because we're slowly pulling out, and now we're allowing the Iraqis to take over some of the police action. They're doing some of the really heavy lifting over there. And by the way, there's daily reports. I was gonna actually list all the stuff that's happening in Iraq. There's daily bombings. There's every bit as much. The only thing that's different right now is it is the Afghans that are taking, or the Iraqis. I'm sorry, the Iraqis that are taking over all the police actions over there. It really can't be war anymore, military. They're not really military action because it's being done by them on their own people, so they're really police actions. And those police actions are causing a lot of civilians to die. They're causing a lot of Iraqis to die. And there's no way that's just that it's getting better. I mean, it's a birthing pain that's over there for Iraq. I really hope and pray that this is going to work out. I don't want to see them fail in Iraq. There's too much at stake for everybody. I think that they really have a chance of grasping this moment. Iraq is not Afghanistan. Iraq is a country that's seen colonialization. It's been dictated to by different people, the French and the English, and through the course of their life. So it's actually been done, and even Iran, and we had the Shah of Iran for quite a while. So it's been done. Afghanistan is a completely different matter. It has never been taken over by anyone. It's the burial ground for imperialist nations. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Isn't it amazing how the media changes gears? Now, I want to just say for the record that I'm still against it. Our troops, the American troops, if anybody could do it in Afghanistan, it would be our troops. And all I can say is that they can't do it because they're not being allowed to. That's all there is to it. They're having their hands tied. I don't want to see another person die over there with his hands tied behind his back who couldn't shoot at some sniper because a sniper shot at them, killed 2 of them, and then dropped his gun. That's just goddamn ridiculous, to quote John Wayne. Okay. Reporting from Phoenix, Arizona, the LA Times says a federal judge, no, it's a judge, has holded the most controversial elements of Arizona's new immigration law, which has been scheduled to take effect at midnight tonight. It would have came into effect tomorrow. The Obama administration seems to have a really hard time. I think I'll tick them off in a little email explaining to them the difference between legal immigrants that have come here and, like Albert Einstein, and help our country a great deal, and illegal immigrants who are breaking into our country. They don't seem to understand there's a difference. Okay, now I find it interesting that you have a country like Arizona where you have like a 20-25% Hispanic population, and you're still getting 60% of the people that favor this law. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you take out the Hispanic people, you're really talking 80-90% of the people in Arizona want this law implemented. This is once again an example of a state versus federal government problem. But even beyond that, if the people in Arizona want this law and they're willing, I don't think there's been a referendum. John? Do you know? Was this a law that was passed? I should know this.
Yeah,
but
this law was passed, I think, and it was largely because of the response to the citizenry being outraged at what's going on. And I think it was a lot of input by the citizens, from what I understand. So if that's a question, yeah, it wasn't something that the government of Arizona just came up with. Well,
this came up also when they had the California law, when when they passed a ban on gay marriage, and then they go to the courts. This is such a travesty on what's happening with our courts when the will of the people is being thwarted by judicial action. To have judges come in and just say to somebody, well, you guys said that that you wanted to do this, but we're going to throw it out because we're judges and we're smarter than you. That's an aristocracy. That's where they're dictating down to us. That's not the way it's supposed to work, folks. We're supposed to be running the damn show. Look, this is a representative republic. We don't have, it's not a complete democracy. We don't vote on every single thing. But when we do, it's supposed to be respected. It's not like we get to vote on everything. So when it does happen, I think they ought to step the F back. That's all there is to it. U.S. District Judge Susan Bolton. Remember Susan Bolton? What the hell? That name sounds really familiar.
I remember John Bolton.
Yeah, John Bolton. John Bolton was a UN Secretary General.
Right. No, he was.
Oh no, he wasn't.
He was our guy in the UN.
Yeah, the ambassador, U.S. ambassador. I meant. Yeah, the Secretary General was Kofi Annan. Hey, isn't that amazing? I could actually come up with that. So that's why you guys watch this show.
Who's the one now? Who's the UN General Secretary now? Probably some third world guy hates us too, but I mean,
Yeah.
as much as Kofi Annan.
Yes. You stumped me on that one. Damn it. I was doing good with Kofi Annan. Why couldn't you just leave it at that? Anyway, we'll find out. On Wednesday, she held an implementation of the parts of the law that require police to determine the status of people they stop and think they're in the country illegally. She also forbade the state from charging anyone for a new crime of failing to possess immigration documents. It's so damn ridiculous. People, if you get pulled over, you have to produce IDs. Are we carving out a separate civil right for Hispanic people? This isn't what Martin Luther King meant when he said that people should be judged on their character, not on the color of their skin. We can't have separate law for everybody. We can't have a separate law for gays. We can't have a separate law for Hispanics. We can't have a separate law for blacks. If we're ever going to get to a point where we have at least what seems like an equal judicial system, then we have to have everybody treated the same. If I have to show ID, then they have to show ID. Okay, we can't hear you, Johnny.
Current Secretary General is Ban Ki-moon. Ban Ki-moon.
Oh yeah, he's a Korean guy, isn't he? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I knew Kofi Annan wasn't in there no more, but I couldn't stand that guy. I mean, I can't say as I like any of the UN Secretary Generals. They're just all. The UN, in my opinion, is a piece of shit. The UN stands for un, as in unable, unmotivated, unwilling, you name it, but it's un. Okay. The clock ticked down toward the implementation of the law, which would have took effect, and this is SB 1070. As you guys remember, I read out parts of it to it. The vast 16 pages, the vast majority of the law didn't even have anything to do with that, with checking the illegal immigrants for their IDs. Most of it had to do actually with them trying to not have entrapment when they would go. This is INS or whoever ICE would come up into stores and they would ask the people, hey, you want a job? And there was some conflict about whether or not that was entrapment. So they decided that the people had to approach the ICE officers or the immigration officers and ask them, do they have a job, before they were allowed to ask them for IDs. So actually, they gave them more rights under the SB 1070. And there's no part of that law. I've read the whole thing. There's no part of it that says anything that's any different than the way me and you would be treated, except for the fact that once you've been asked, then you can't produce your ID. You can't prove that you're a legal immigrant. Then they have to turn them over to immigration. Also, the part that they don't like talking to you about, and this is the real part I think the Democrats have a problem with. Since it was Arizona, Jan Brewer in Arizona that made it the whole state, what actually happened was they didn't allow sanctuary cities anymore. So they couldn't have a city within Arizona, say Phoenix, that says, well, okay, our local police officers, if they pull over and they find illegal immigrants, then they just won't turn them over to immigration or anything. They'll say, well, good luck, guys, I'll see you later. Or give them a ticket that they won't pay, because why the hell would they pay? Because they're already in the country illegal. What are you going to do? Ship them out? No, you're not going to ship them out because you've already told them that you're not going to arrest them. People, Hispanic people are some of the most decent, hard-working people. When my son used to work on a construction crew with all Hispanic guys, he used to tell me stories about how they would take bundles of shingles and put them on their shoulders and make bets with each other and who could carry the most shingles up between each other. Who could carry the most shingles up on the roof. That's how hard working they are. When I was a kid, I always used to say, back when I was an illegal immigrant, they used to bring Hispanics in to work on my uncle's farm. And I, being that I grew up very, very poor, I used to have to pick pickles in order to get money to buy my school clothes in the fall. And I would work alongside of the Hispanics. My uncle had a little mini Mexican town that was fully, really small little houses, which they all thought they were really, really good. And families would live in them, and he would take me over there sometimes, and we would walk through there and talk to some of the Hispanic people. And they were always great people. They were very family-oriented. I think they're being, as we talked before, I think they're being destroyed by the Democratic Party, who wants their families broke up, wants them dependent, wants to destroy the work ethic that they have. Because one of the things that the Democratic Party, which is kind of disgusting, is they don't really want to see people prosper. Because people that prosper, and I really believe this is true, people that prosper don't need the Democratic Party anymore. And when they get pissed off about the taxes they have to pay, and nothing pisses them off. And by the way, the people that I've met that are the most pissed off about paying taxes are usually black people. Once a black people and a black person and an African American reaches that pinnacle where he starts to make some decent money, he's pretty freaked out about having to pay all these taxes. I mean, you know, think of it from their point of view. I mean, they've pretty much grown up in poverty. They've always got their earned income tax check. They've always gotten things from the government. The idea of now, and by the way, and I actually grew up in the ghetto here in the north end of Flint. And when you are around a lot of people that are making money and they're taking the money from the government and they're cheating a lot and they're exaggerating their illnesses or they're, you know, it's claiming that their refrigerator's out when it's really not or whatever the local scam is, and these scams go very quickly through the neighborhood. Once they find out about them, then everybody gets on board and everybody just sort of laughs because it's kind of boning the government and nobody really cares. When you start paying, you've kind of had an inside track on seeing that. Now, I'm not saying all people that are on welfare or whatever are thieves. They're not. A lot of them actually deserve. But there's a percentage of thieves. And when you start paying that money, you get very upset about the fact that I'm paying in, and now you want those people brought to justice. Like, okay, look, what the hell is this FICA? Who the hell's taking $10,000 out of my check every year? And then you start thinking back about the guys that started, you know, the refrigerator scam for everybody that had free refrigerators that needed them below this income and how people lied about it, and you get mad about it. It's almost better to be a well-off white person that grew up in suburbia and be blissfully ignorant than to be a black guy that grew up in the ghetto and then have to pay the taxes and know damn well what's going on. Okay. Anyway, busloads of demonstrators were arriving from Los Angeles, California. Oh, my God. I'm going to start with them people. You know, California, you know, the people, all right. Whenever I'm talking about France or any place, Arizona or any place else, I'm never, ever, ever talking about the people. People are people. What I'm talking about is the government. And the government of California is a piece of shit. From Arnold Schwarzenegger, loved his movies, hated Kindergartner Cop. That was a horrible movie. I don't care what anybody says. That was terrible. But, I mean, for them to, you know, one of the funniest things that I heard, maybe you guys heard this too, is that they started a boycott. California started a boycott of Arizona over this immigration law. And instantly, Arizona, Jan Brewer started looking at what they could do back to California, kind of as a payback. Well, they found out that California gets 25% of the electricity from Arizona. And so they cut off the power. I can't help it. I think that's ironic and funny. That's just great. Okay. But this guy, this guy, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, I think it's what it is, whose campaign against illegal immigrants has made him widely popular, if controversial figure, said he would open a new section of his outdoor tent jail that he's dubbing Section 1070. Where he intended to house illegal immigrants detained as a result of the law. Arpaio, whose downtown high-rise offices were to be targeted by these same demonstrators on Thursday, released a statement before Bolton's ruling, warning that he would not tolerate lawbreakers. You gotta love this. This is the whole reason why I put this on this. Activists and their celebrity sympathizers who wish to target this community and this sheriff by attempting to disrupt our jail and patrol operations will be unsuccessful, as we will be fully prepared to meet those challenges head-on with appropriately staffed personnel and resources. And then today, he said that the people that want to protest my jail will soon find themselves in it. I would love to see that. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else. Oh, okay. Actually, I did write that. Any person who is arrested shall have the person of immigration status determined when the person is before the person is released. Okay, that's something else. All right. Guess who weighed in on the Arizona law? Okay, hang on a second. It's a water break. This is a teaser, folks. Hang on. Okay, we're back. Elton John has weighed in on the Arizona law. Got to tell you, I love Elton John. I love Elton John's music. Tiny Dancer, Norma Jean. I mean, it's great music. I mean, Elton John's one of my all-time favorite musicians. Okay, this guy is just simply great. And lately, as Elton John has gotten a little bit older, he's gotten a little more bold about what he's saying. And I like Elton John because he doesn't lockstep with everybody else on the liberal side. if he's a pretty liberal guy, but if he doesn't, if he likes you, he likes you. If he wants to say something, he says it. He's gotten to that point in his life where he's done trying to appease everybody. He realizes it's impossible. And the greatest thing about that is watching him do this, okay? And he's been condemning the artists who are boycotting the state. Artists including Rage Against the Machine, and I can't remember that one guy's name. He's a dick. Kanye West. Need I say anything about Kanye West? The guy that thinks that Bush hated black people because of Katrina. By the way, just
godlike qualities to George W. Bush. I hated Bush. I would never give him that credit.
Yeah, no kidding. If that's a deity, I'm out of religion. throw my theology out the window. And Maroon 5. Who the hell knew Maroon 5 was still performing any damn where? Okay. Have all refused to perform in the state until officials reverse the legislation, which gives Arizona police the power to arrest anybody suspected of being an illegal immigrant. All right, that statement by itself, by the way, is completely erroneous. But Elton John, has refused to join, which his real name is Reginald something or another. Anyway, but he's refused to join the protest, and he's reportedly slammed the campaigners during a concert at a Tucson Arena in Arizona on Thursday. According to the Arizona Daily Star, Elton John told the crowd of 8,800, "We are all very pleased to be playing in Arizona." Listen to this. "I have read that some of the artists won't come here. They are fuckwits." I didn't even know fuckwit was a word. All right. By the way, that was a what do they call that? A passing expletive. It wasn't. I didn't think about that. I just said it. I split it up. "I still play in California." This is Elton John still. "And as a gay man, I have no legal rights there whatsoever. So what the fuck is with these people?" Another fleeting expletive. The new legislation, supposedly, at this time, it said it was coming into effect on Thursday, but it's not coming into effect on Thursday. So that's the Arizona immigration law. Okay, now I want to get into this is really the main substance, and this is Michigan news here. Okay, and I kind of wanted to get into. Well, let's do a couple things before we get into that.
By the way, Elton John's real name is Reginald Kenneth Dwight.
Dwight, yes, thank you. John's all over this today. Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. So that's the way we get the information to it. Isn't it great? I mean, I love having John. John is really the perfect booth man because he allows me to go off, but he comes in at just the right times. I mean, I love the way he does that. And thank you, John. That's awesome. Here in Michigan, now this is all some Michigan stuff that's been going on. I'm gonna send this on Michigan. For those of you that aren't that interested in Michigan, I apologize, but kind of hang out. You might find some of this kind of interesting. Okay, because Michigan always has some bizarre stuff going on. Like a lot of states, we have some bizarre stuff going on in our politics. And right now we have a big governor's race that's heating up. But we've also just recently had an oil spill, our own oil spill, our very own oil spill. Maybe we can get some federal funds. Maybe we can get some cleanup. Maybe BP or somebody will put a couple of $1 billion in a fund for us. That would be great. All right. And it happened in the Kalamazoo River. And what happened was they had a 30-inch pipe that blew out. And the estimates are anywhere from 817 gallons to 877 gallons, which is about 60,000 gallon difference. I don't know, what they don't know exactly how much. I guess there's a low estimate and a high estimate. But this is now flowing down the Kalamazoo River, headed toward Lake Michigan. And they're hoping that they actually made it sound like it would be a good thing because it would sort of blocked by this lake, which I mean it's going to be a big cesspool. All right. If I was, I'm going to shout out to my friends from the Genesee County Compassionate Club, okay? If I was a pot grower and I'm growing pot in my backyard, the federal government can come in, and they can still do this. Now Eric Holder says he won't do this, but they can still do this. They can seize all my property. It's called forfeiture. They can seize everything that I own for growing pot in my back fucking yard. But, this guy from Hayward from BP retires, leaves, whatever you want to call it, forced out, resigns, and he gets $1.6 million damn dollars for destroying the Gulf of Mexico. why is it there isn't? Does anybody sympathize with me on this? All right, we're all having a tough time here. We're watching our environment get ripped apart. We're having a tough time making our bills. We're suffering high unemployment. We watched our 401k shrink. Our taxes are going to go up. I mean, obviously, the Bush tax cuts are all going to expire in January. I'm going to make a prediction on this, folks. Okay, if, and it's a big if they follow through with their promise, and it's the Obama administration, to reinstate some of the tax cuts, that there's quite a few of them in there, including the child care credit, the marriage penalty tax that was in the Bush tax cuts, they're going to reinstate all of them for the middle class. I'm going to make a prediction. That's my prediction. Wait and see. I guarantee you, if you get some of it back, you will not get all of it back. Because this is a great ploy that both of them use, and that is that they allow somebody else's tax cuts to expire, and they say, I didn't hike your taxes, it just expired. But the truth of the matter is, you're going to be paying more. If it should happen to go to a point where they have a debate, it's going to be what I call a Chinese handcuff, which means we're getting on both ends. So what we're going to be is in the middle of this damn thing, where the Republicans are going to argue about they want the tax cuts renewed 100%, and they're going to talk about the capital gains. They're going to talk about the death tax, which, by the way, is an interesting little tax because they always drag out the poor farmers when we could easily just exclude the damn farmers. Okay, right now it's set at over $1 million for you and your wife. So basically you could inherit $2 million and never have to pay any taxes on it. And they always point at the farmers because farmers have a tendency to inherit these farms. Some of them are, worth $16, $18 million or whatever, but they don't have a pot to piss in because they're farming the land. Yes, the land's worth a lot, but they're not going to sell it. And then they're forced to sell sections of it off to pay the inheritance tax, so which diminishes their farm, which is what they hang on to. So, of course, they're upset about it. But anyway, they're going to try really hard to make a big argument about it because every day that it's not reinstated, the Bush tax cuts, every day that it's not reinstated means more money into the Treasury for them. And that's pretty fucking ridiculous. That's really irritates the crap out of me. Okay, but the bottom line on it is we got these oil spills. We got all these problems that are happening. We've had this horrible economic collapse. And, and from where I'm sitting, it looks like nobody suffers from it. We the little people, if we get caught drunk driving, if we got, and I'm not saying that there's anything right with these things, okay? You sell some coke, you do something like that, your life is frickin' wrecked. And I mean wrecked. Some of you people out there, you get caught with a half a gram of cocaine, you can kiss your federal aid goodbye. You'll never be able to work in a school. You'll never be able to get any help from the government. In a lot of instances, you'll never be able to work in any place that has children. A lot of federal agencies won't hire you. You're going to have a felony conviction. You won't be able to carry a gun. All this other shit for having a half a gram of cocaine. I'm not advocating cocaine, all right? But for a half a gram of cocaine, you get your frickin' life wrecked. This jerk-off from BP violates all kinds of laws, tries to buy politicians, gets waivers for these sites, destroys half of the Gulf of Mexico. He gets a $1.6 million kickoff. We've got to work on this, get some element of fairness so the average working guy like us doesn't get their life destroyed over petty bullshit, and these guys get away with hell. I mean, is anybody going to pay for this damn thing? For 877,000 gallons of oil cruising down the Kalamazoo River? And I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to destroy shit all the way down it. I used to work for a chemical company before I got my present job working for a university. And when I worked for that, the guy that ran the company, who's a complete dick, and I hope he's listening so he can hear me call him that, took 10,000 gallons of a high alkaline. We made chemicals, and we made them in these giant vats, and they were mostly cleaning compounds, like floor compounds. And what a lot of people don't realize is that there's the opposite end of the spectrum for acid. Now, everybody knows that acid's really bad, right? Well, there's the other end of the spectrum, which is the alkalines. And alkalines are actually way worse than acids. Like, when you get up into 8 and 9 on the pH scale, it'll burn the living shit out of you. So they use high alkalines for floor strippers to strip the old wax and stuff off of it. We made a 5,000 gallon, I believe 5,000 gallon vat of this stuff. Might even been 10,000, and it didn't turn out right. The chemist screwed up somewhere, and it didn't come out right, and it was and he didn't know what to do with it. And my boss told him to pour it down the sewer. And this is in Detroit. This is downriver Detroit, down by Fort and Jefferson. And I mean, you know, it's a really heavy industrial area. It looks like an Escape from New York, if you've ever seen the movie. Poured it right down the sewer system. Well, it went down the sewer system, went into a stream, killed 4 miles of a stream, killed everything in the stream. I mean, not a frog, not a water bug, not a piece of grass, nothing. All along, it was just brown all the way down the stream until it hit the Detroit River. For that. And, you know, I did a whistleblower thing. I mean, I'm an environmentalist. It pissed me off to no end to see somebody just so blatantly piss on, you know, and to sound like a hippie, my mother. And so I called and I tried to do the whistleblower thing. And I said, you know, this guy did this. And they went down and they checked it out. They came back. They gave him a $5,000 fine for that. It would have cost him twice that much to dispose of it properly. Where the hell's the incentive for these guys to do it? And then they did a wonderful thing, too. They told him that one of the people here called and told on him. So then he had this big campaign where he never did find out that it was me, but he had this big campaign where he threatened everybody, and he said if somebody doesn't come forward, he's going to do this, this, and the other thing. But as long as we'll never be able to protect our environment if these people just walk off. Why? If you're the head of BP, why in the hell would you care? I mean, what do you think? It's really that bad? I mean, $1.6 million and you got to leave? I mean, so what? Is his life ruined? Can he no longer get a job? Can he no longer be near a school or whatever else because he did cocaine? No. All right. Now, let's see what else I got here because there's so many good things. Okay. I just want to do this one really quick because I find this hysterical. France has declared war on Al-Qaida. In other news, folks, so has my little sister. That's about as much as it means. France, for some weird reason, decided that they'd had enough of Al-Qaida and declared war on them. They've been staying relatively neutral. France is one of my favorite countries to hate. And I'm not just joining the bandwagon here. I have a point that a lot of people don't ever hear about. And I'll give it to you guys right here. France killed 14,000 elderly people. Most people don't know that. Give you a little chore here, guys. Go on Google, type in France and heat wave, and guess what you find? In France, I think it was 2002, if I remember right. It was in the early 2000s. France had a heat wave that came through. Now you're going to say, how the hell would it kill 14,000 people? Here's how it happened. France has this week, Armistice Week, where because they were liberated, they take the whole week off. Now, France is a very socialist country, and a lot of people in France work for the government. So everybody, and also France warehouses, and there's no other word for it, they're elderly people because they want to party, and the government has kind of liberated them. It's that mentality that keeps on progressing, that the government takes care of everything. So why shouldn't they take care of my mom and dad? Well, they do. And then the people that are still there, it's very easy. Well, like I was saying, the humanization thing. It's very easy when your parents are being taken care of in some, warehouse somewhere to just say, well, I think they're being taken care of fine. And, I don't really go see her anymore and anything. And you kind of rub it out of your mind because you're down on the Riviera partying all the time. Well, that's pretty much what happened. And they kept cutting back on the elderly so they could afford more social programs for the people that were younger and more vacations and all the wonderful things that Michael Moore and everybody else likes to point at, the health care and everything else. But they took that people and they put the elderly people and they put them in, more and more degraded shacks, communal living, whatever you want to call them. And they took away their air conditioners. And they would take them, when they have big heat waves, they would take them to cooling stations instead of having them have. So basically the old people are sitting sweating in these old houses, in these old apartments, giant apartments. Well, everybody was gone on vacation, and there was nobody there but a skeleton crew, and they couldn't get the air conditioners there. They couldn't get the people out. There was nobody to ride the buses and everything else. And slowly over the course of the week, elderly people started dying of heat exhaustion. 14,000 people died. 12 times as much as what died in Katrina. How come you never heard about that? How come nobody ever brought that up for you? Do it, people. Look on Google and type in heat wave in France, and you'll see exactly. It's not a secret. I didn't go to WikiLeaks, which I love. That's that site, by the way. That guy's great. But I didn't have to. I'd heard about it. I'll tell you something else I heard about a long time ago that you probably never heard about. How about 100 UN officials in the Congo using young children and pimping them out and putting them on the internet in a pedophilia ring, some of them as young as 8, in exchange for medicine and food that me and you donated? How about that one? You didn't hear about that, did you? Now, you heard about the 5 or 7 people in Abu Ghraib, didn't you? You heard about that damn day and night. Why is it that whenever there's a liberal disaster, you don't hear about it? It's like Michael Moore stands there, and I'm not just ripping on Michael Moore, but Michael Moore stands there and applauds the French healthcare system that killed 14,000 people, for God's sakes, but he stands there and talks about how bad Katrina is? I think Michael needs to do a little more research. Okay. Chevy Volt. I want to cover this really quick. The Chevy Volt has just been introduced, and they say it's $40,000. Now I've heard there's been all day long. I listened to a lot of the talk show hosts, and a lot of them have been going off about this, and they're pretty much going off about the price and that it'll only go 40 miles and who would want to buy it. I happen to be very green. I'm a big fan of us trying to move to more green technology. However, there's something that I find a little bit wrong with the way they're doing this. They give you a $7,500 tax abatement on this thing, so that you basically get $7,500 back for buying it, like a refund. General Motors, okay, now some of you might be a little confused by this. General Motors claims they paid back the debt that they got from the TARP funds. Wrong. You know what they did? They borrowed money from the Treasury. They took money that they owed from the TARP fund for 3.7% interest. They had to pay the money back to the TARP fund. But they gave them access to go to the Treasury, Timothy Geithner did. So they go to the Treasury and borrow money against their assets once they got through the bankruptcy and everything, because they actually had the new GM, and they kind of foreclosed, or not foreclosed, borrowed against their assets there from the Treasury at 0.75, and then paid off that debt with the other debt. Now let me encapsulate that for you and simplify it. They took money from the Treasury, our left pocket, to pay the TARP funds back, our right pocket. And in the process, they dropped their interest rate 3 points that they would be paying to us. Holy shit. Okay, so we cleared that up. They still owe us the damn money. It's just they owe a different part of us. They owe our left pocket.
Just all give us all a free Volt. Now we'll call it quits.
Yeah, we'll call it even. There we go. And then, excellent idea. And then we'll move ahead with the green thing. We'll get some of our damn money back. But anyway, they want to put 1 million of these on a road. That's their goal, is to put 1 million of these on the road eventually. Now, $7,500, that's $7.5 billion if they have their way for them to do this. If they take that $7.5 billion and pay us back, holy shit, how many times are we going to get paid back by our own damn money? And by the way, how do I know that this $33,000 car, or $40,000 car, isn't really only worth $32,500 or $32,500? I mean, how do I know that Government Motors didn't just take the $32,500 car and jack it up to $4,000 so they get $7,500 so they can pay back the TARP fund, or the money they borrowed from the Treasury that they used to pay back the TARP fund? Is there anybody following this? It's making my freaking head explode. All right. Let's get into the gubernatorial. I know I didn't allow myself much time. I'm actually having way too much fun here. I didn't allow myself enough time for this, but I'm gonna go over it a little bit. Here in Michigan, we're getting ready, and this will be next Tuesday, to have a governor's race, which is called a gubernatorial race. Don't ask me where they came up with that name.
That's it, Goober?
Goober, yeah, gubernatorial. Well, it's a bunch of goobers that are in it, so.
We're screwed from the start on this.
Yes, yeah. Well, no, not really, because we are getting rid of Jennifer Granholm. So that's reason to celebrate all on its own. You know what's interesting about that? There's not a single female in the field now. So apparently, the door that was opened by Jennifer Granholm was also closed by Jennifer Granholm.
Another one will not get elected for another 35 years.
She has set the feminist movement back 35 years. But here, I have always told you people, and I will beat this drum the whole time that I'm on the radio. And that is that democracy does not just mean voting. It is so important for everyone to understand that. Democracy doesn't just mean voting. It also means that you have to have a free election that is unfair from intrusion. In other words, just because I vote, I want to make sure that my vote counts. I don't want people, intimidating me like the Black Panther Party, New Black Panther Party did. I don't want people falsifying votes. I don't want people denying the military votes. I mean, all the different ways that you can fix an election. You have to have a free election that's fair. Okay, that's very, and it's never going to be completely fair, or it's never going to be completely free of everything, but this should be something that we should all be very upset about. Now there's a little game that's being played by the Democratic Party. Now the Democratic Party in Michigan, for those of you that aren't from Michigan and don't really follow it, we're the state that the people couldn't vote for Barack Obama. He got removed from the ballot in this really complicated little game that was played by two of our people, John Dingell, who's one of our representatives, his wife, Debbie Dingell, who's works for the Democratic Party, in cahoots with Mark Brewer, who's the head of the Democratic Party. And they all conspired to keep Barack Obama off the ballot. So the idea being that Hillary Clinton misplayed this whole damn thing. And what basically happened was that after Super Tuesday, she realized that she wasn't in the position that she was in. And she was real afraid she was going to lose the election. And for good reason, because obviously she did lose the election. She bet too much on just taking Super Tuesday and then being able to jump all over the Republicans and start badmouthing, because the Democratic Party would have wrapped up their part of the primary early. She didn't really see Barack Obama as being that big a threat. Her mistake. But her backup plan was to turn to Florida and turn to Michigan and try to get them to drop Obama from off the ballot. It's like fixing a damn election. I tried my best to get black people to get upset about this, but they didn't. I don't think they really understood what was really going on with this whole thing. But anyway, now they got a new game, and this is the Tea Party of Michigan. Now the Tea Party people are basically, and I've been to a few of the Tea Party rallies. And the Tea Party people are trying to stay out of running candidates. But this little shitbag, and his name is Mark Stuffick, has taken the Tea Party of Michigan, and he's registered it, and he submitted 23 Tea Party nominated candidates to the Secretary of State. I asked the Tea Party representatives from around here, and they told me that this guy is in no way affiliated with the Tea Party, that he's created this on his own, that he's an operative from the Democratic Party in an effort to split the vote. The idea being here that they create this viable third party that looks like the Tea Party, but it's not really the Tea Party, and hopefully a lot of voters will be misled into voting for these Tea Party candidates that they put up that aren't even Tea Party candidates, that this guy put up there just so that he could screw with the election. This is election fraud. This should be investigated. I don't know, what the hell is going on in this state where they're trying to influence elections by putting up false people. This isn't really something that hasn't happened before. Ross Perot, and a lot of people don't know this, if you ever read the book, The Perot Factor, and you look back at what Ross Perot originally became a billionaire because of Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon handed him a huge public, actually Nixon, they say, may have been impeached for the way he handed out government contracts. And he handed out a government contract to Ross Perot to print all the checks that were for Social Security. It literally made him a billionaire overnight. And he did this by taking $1,000 from his wife, which he famously says he started EDS. Or it was EDS? Is that the, yeah, EDS. By taking $1,000 from his wife and registering the company as an LLC, and then basically, starting the company, and then he got a government contract. He acts like he won the government contract, but it was no big contract. Nobody else bid on it. Nixon just handed it to him. And ever since that time, Ross Perot was a tool of the Republican Party. H.W. Bush called in the bet and said, hey, look, you owe us a favor. We made you millions, billions, literally, and we need you to do something. And what we want you to do, and this is very similar to what this Tea Party people are doing, we want you to come in, and then we want you to set up as a third party, and you call yourself the Labor Party. And wasn't that what it was? No, it was
Get the name of the party. I could look it up. Hold on.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't Labor Party. But anyway, was it Reform Party? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so Ross Perot started this party, and then the first thing that he said right out of the box was that he was pro-choice, and the idea being that he would draw votes away from Clinton. The problem was when he started talking about the debt and everything, much like the Tea Parties are, he drew fiscal conservatives. That really pissed H.W. Bush out. off. And then he wanted Ross Perot to drop out of the race. That pissed Ross Perot off because he was really serious about this. He was serious about the way it was going. So he wanted to run, but he owed H.W. Bush and the Republican Party a favor, so he dropped out of the race. After that, H.W. Bush started bad-mouthing him when he did exactly what he wanted to do. That pissed Ross Perot off, and the second time that he actually ran as his own candidate. But by this time, everybody was kind of pissed off Ross Perot for leaving and coming back. The bottom line on it is, from day one, Ross Perot was a tool that was being used to manipulate the election. This is normal politics, but when you actually have people that are coming in deceptively and saying that they're a party that they're not, because the Tea parties don't really have an actual party. I mean, it's a bunch of small people, grassroots, the true grassroots uprising. And this guy's trying to create an artificial Tea Party that he's going to be the head of. And that way, hopefully, people will come to the polls, fiscal conservatives, which is most of them are, and libertarians, and they'll be confused by that. And instead of voting for the Republican candidates in Michigan, they'll actually vote for the Tea Party candidates, therefore dividing the conservative vote and heading the Democrat Party in. I know some of the Democrats are probably going, yeah, hell yes, man, this is awesome. I can't believe this is happening. Thank you, Hippie. You just made my day. This is destroying your vote, people. This is manipulating your system. You shouldn't allow this sort of thing. It's deceptive. It shouldn't be tolerated in any regard. So who is this guy? Who is this Mark Stafford? He's a retired UAW shop steward. He's a union leader. He's though he says he was never a registered Democrat. I mean, how many of you guys? Okay, now I'm from a UAW family. There is no UAW shop stewards that are Republicans. None.
It was a Reform Party, by the way.
Reform Party. That's what I thought. Thank you. So I mean, and John was talking about Ross Perot there. This guy went out in the Thumb Era, submitted 60,000 petitions, and took it to state officials, and now he's he won't answer any questions. He won't do anything. He works with this other guy, Hodge, who used to work for Democratic Governor James Blanchard and has worked regularly since then for the Democratic Party. So this guy is specifically tied to the Republican Party, and now he's going to try to sway away the vote. But let's get into the guys that are running. Okay, what we have here, and I'm gonna have to be really quick because I only got 5 minutes left. What you have is you have Mike Bouchard, and this is in Michigan, who's running. This is on the Republican side. Yeah, Mike Bouchard. Mike Bouchard's a sheriff, and he's running his campaign pretty much on the idea of this being a right-to-work state. A right-to-work state is where you don't have to join a union in order to work at a union place. Like, say, you go to Kroger's, and and they have a union. You don't have to join the union. You could just bow out of the union. This is an idea that's been going on for a long time. I mean, we could debate the merits of it, but the bottom line on it is it's an attempt to try to get rid of some of the union presence. We'll talk about that another time. The other guy is Michael Cox. Michael Cox is he's the Attorney General here in Michigan. Now, Buffy, otherwise known as Jennifer Granholm, she was our last Attorney General, so I'll let you know how well that worked out. Mike Cox, for you guys that are Republican, I want to give you something to think about for a minute on Mike Cox. Now, Mike Cox was involved in this Manoogian Mansion party that was supposed to happen with Kwame Kilpatrick, who was the disgraced mayor of Detroit. I don't think I need to tell any of you people about that because that was national news. But Mike Cox, there's a lot of people that believe that Mike Cox knew there was a party there and covered it up for Kwame Kilpatrick. They were friends. There's no doubt about that. There's even some accusations that were in the Argus Press that says that it's entirely possible that he was even involved in it, that he was there and got some lap dances and stuff like that. But the thing to consider is that if Mike Cox wins the nomination, and then we should happen to find out that he actually did know about the Manoogian Mansion, say some new evidence comes out, some new people come forward, you guys are going to be screwed. You might as well hand the damn thing to the Democrats. The other guy is Tom George. This guy has 1.8% of the vote. Tom George, do yourself a favor. Back another candidate, okay? Get the hell out. What are you doing? 1.8? Come on. Pete Hoekstra, this is a U.S. representative, and this is the guy that I'm going to predict is probably going to win the Republican side. And I'm not for that. These guys are career politicians. I'm an incumbent. I just don't really. I'm gonna throw all the guys out at this point. The other guy is Rick Snyder. Now Rick Snyder is from Ann Arbor, and I'm going to give him my endorsement. The reason is Rick Snyder is a venture capitalist. He created Gateway. You're going to see a lot of stuff come out about him. And at the Democratic side, you have Verge Monero. Verge Monero is the Lansing mayor, and this guy, Verge Monero, is kind of an outspoken guy. I don't see that he's done anything great in Lansing, but some of you Democrats might want to consider him. The other guy on the Democratic side is Andy Dillon. Now, Andy Dillon is the Speaker of the House, and he's kind of joined at the hip with Buffy the Job Slayer. What I'd like to say about him is, and this is my little tagline for him, he's a good-looking guy with wavy brown hair. And what I always say is, if you liked Barbie, then vote for Ken. Okay, maybe we'll get into that a little bit more, but that's coming up this Tuesday, so you guys might want to look around and vote, guys. This is the only way that we can keep control of our country. This is the only thing we've got, okay? And I'm going to wrap it up here. It's been a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thank you.